Hi class, here we are for another screencast. Today we're starting a new unit, and the new unit is the biological basis of psychology, or the biology of psychology. We need to start with the biology because all of the things we think of as psychological phenomenon, like feeling emotions, being an introvert, having a psychological disorder, all of these psychological phenomena are all rooted in the physical biology of our body. So we need to learn about the hormones that affect our moods in our body, the neurotransmitters, the brain parts. Lots of things affect and are involved in all of these psychological phenomenon. Our mind does not exist out there as a separate thing apart from our physical body. It is part of our physical body. So in order to understand our mind, we have to understand the biology. So there's going to be several videos for this unit. The first one is going to be about the endocrine and nervous systems. We're going to look at hormones and glands. Let me pull this up. We're going to look at the nervous system, hormones and glands, and neurons. There will be another screencast on the nervous system that's about the synapse and the neurotransmitters. And then there will be a few other screencasts after that about the brain and some other things. Okay, let's get started. Our essential question for this unit is, how can biology, hormones, neurotransmitters, and brain regions influence behavior and mental processes? So biology is a part of many units we study, such as human development, stress and health, personality, and psychological disorders. So we need to understand it here at the beginning of the year. So the endocrine system is the body's slow communication system. It's chemicals that go through our blood system. It's hormones going through our bloodstream, which is much slower than nerves with electrical impulses. Nerves can go from our brain to our fingertips just like that. The hormones take a few minutes or a few seconds to get throughout the body. So the endocrine system, there's a bunch of glands. We don't need to know all of the ones on this chart. We need to know that the pituitary gland secretes many different hormones, and it's sometimes called the master gland. We need to know the thyroid and then the adrenal gland. So let's get started. Hormones, what exactly are they? Chemicals synthesized by the endocrine glands that are secreted into the bloodstream. They affect the brain and many other tissues of the body. So a hormone released in one part of the body can go into the bloodstream and affect other parts of the body. So the pituitary gland, as I mentioned, is the master gland, secretes many different hormones. It's up there, tucked in. It's right up next to the brain. We also have the adrenal glands. Everybody, I think, knows what adrenaline is. The scientific name is epinephrine. So epinephrine and adrenaline are the same thing. It increases your heart rate, your blood pressure, blood sugar, feelings of excitement during emergency situations. So your adrenaline can help you in like a sporting event. It could help you if you saw a bear in the woods, anything like that. The thyroid gland is up here in the neck, and it affects your metabolism, which is how much energy your body processes, like how much it uses. Sometimes if the thyroid gland isn't functioning right, it could lead to people to be overweight. So sometimes if there's a weight issue and people don't understand why, they check your thyroid levels and see how your thyroid is working. Okay, that was real quick endocrine system. We're going to go on to the nervous system, which we're going to talk about a little bit longer. In the nervous system, we're going to break things into parts, and there's lots of parts of two. So we're going to break the nervous system into two parts: the central nervous system, which is on this guy on this side. The orange part is the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. And over here, the peripheral nervous system is all of the yellow, all of the nerves going out and away from the spinal cord and away from the brain. That's the peripheral. Peripheral means on the edge. So there's the center and then there's the edge. So the nervous system consists of all the nerve cells. It's the body's speedy electrochemical communication system. So it's actually electrical charges going in and up and down your nerves. Central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. Peripheral sensory motor neurons that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body. I'll tell you more about sensory and motor neurons in a little bit. So the periphery nervous system, we're going to break this into two parts. And we have the somatic nervous system, which controls the skeletal muscles, and the autonomic, which controls the glands and other internal muscles like the heart. So now we're going to break the autonomic into two parts. The first is the sympathetic nervous system, which arouses the body in stressful situations, gets your heart rate, your breathing, your pupils dilate, your blood goes to your muscles. And the parasympathetic calms the body. So if you see that bear in the woods, you're out for a hike, boom, your sympathetic nervous system gets you ready. It's called the fight or flight response. Your body is ready to either fight, or by flight they mean run. So that's what happens there. And then a few minutes later, you're away from the bear, you're safe. The parasympathetic nervous system calms you back down. So this graph just shows you some of the body parts that are involved when you see that bear and when you calm back down. So your pupils are dilating, your heartbeat accelerates, your stomach stops digestion, the liver stimulates glucose release, sugar release. The adrenal gland releases a bunch of hormones to get you excited. The bladder relaxes. And, well, there you go. So what exactly are these neurons or these nerve cells? So our body has an information system built from billions of interconnected cells called nerves or neurons. So you can use those words interchangeably. I'm going to use the word neuron mostly. And they're long. They can be long, they can be short. They're varying sizes. There's three types. Sensory neurons are getting information from the senses, like from your fingertips or from your eyes or from your ears, and taking that information into the central nervous system, so into your brain and spinal cord. So those are neurons bringing information in. Motor neurons take outgoing information to your muscles. So if you touched a burning stove, the sensory neuron would bring the impulse in to your spinal cord, and then your spinal cord would kick out a message through your motor neurons, and you would move your hand away. And by the way, that message doesn't even get to your brain. Your spinal cord sends the reaction before it gets to your brain. Interneurons connect motor neurons and sensory neurons. So interneurons are in between, okay? So let's look at this neuron a little bit closer, a nerve cell. We need to know these parts. There's 4 parts you need to know, 5 actually. The main part here, the biggest part, is the cell body. So it's the life support center. And then coming into the cell body are a bunch of things called dendrites. These are receiving messages from other cells. So each nerve is connected to a bunch of other nerves or neurons. So these are messages coming in. The neuron also has one long axon that comes out to something called terminal branches. The axon is the part of the sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Part of the neuron that the message passes through to get to other neurons. So a message comes in a dendrite, it goes through the cell body, it comes out the axon and goes down to what are called the terminal branches of the axon. So each of these little endings would be connecting to another cell's dendrites. Okay. This axon is covered by something called the myelin sheath, which helps speed the electrical impulse along. So the neural impulse, it says here, is an electrical signal. So it's an electrical impulse that comes down and it goes to the terminal branches and connects to another neuron. The myelin sheath speeds up that process. Okay, here's the definitions written down if you need to write those down. When a neuron fires, sometimes it's called firing, like it gets a message in and then it sends out a new message. That sending out of that new message down the axon is called firing. It's also called the action potential. So a thing about the action potential, it only goes one way down the axon, and there has to be a threshold. Each neuron receives excitatory signals from many neurons and some inhibitory signals. And when you get enough excitatory, then the action potential will fire and it'll send the message on to the next neuron. So it's an all or nothing thing. It either fires or it doesn't fire. It either hits the threshold and it fires, or it doesn't hit the threshold and it doesn't fire. Okay, that's the end of this screencast. There is another one that's got some super important information about the synapse, what happens when cells fire exactly, and some chemicals that are in the synapse called neurotransmitters that are super important. Maybe one of the most important things we learned about all year. So make sure you check that out. All right, if you have any questions, see me in class or email me.